My day was rather uneventful. I woke up, ate breakfast, showered, brushed my teeth. The usual morning routine. Said goodbye to my wife and headed off to work. I really enjoyed the drive to work. It's one of the only times in my day where I can really relax. I listened to my favorite album, Dark Side of the Moon, a real classic. The melodies woven by the brilliant instrumental components really blow my mind on repeated listens. I arrived at work, a boring office job. I spent my day answering phone calls, dealing with fuming customers who've encountered problems with the products we've sold them. In fact, today one woman called me a useless cunt and hung up on me. Either way, once I finished work, I drove home and laid back on the couch next to my wife, and we watched our favorite TV show, Twin Peaks, drinking wine. The show ended, and we went up to bed together. As we laid there, I thought about my job, whether I really enjoyed it or not, if I'm happy with where I've ended up in life. These thoughts drifted me off to sleep. I wake up in the middle of the night to a painfully loud sound coming from my daughter's room in the middle of the night. It was a combination of scratching, screaming, and pounding, which can only be described as cacophonous. I bolt up as my wife does, and we run down the dark hallway, both half asleep. I hurl the door open, turn on the light, and am greeted by an empty bed. My wife mutters under her breath, "Oh my fucking God." She steps back and I hear her slowly collapse against the wall with muffled tears. I step inside slowly and look around the room. I can't see any signs of forced entry. A broken vent cover has been moved aside from the vent it was covering. I slide it back over. A shelf is lying on the floor across the other side of the room. I walk over to it in a zombie-like state and pick it up and lay it on the bed. I collapse backwards and start to cry into my hands. I hear my wife stand up and run down the stairs, followed by her voice talking to what seems to be a 911 operator. Something else is bugging me. It's not something I see, but the absence of something. My mind races as I look around and I realize that the cat, which usually stays in my daughter's room, has gone missing as well. I assume it followed the intruder as he left, but can't quite convince myself. I lay in bed once again. My daughter has been missing for a little over a week now, and my life is falling apart. My boss is considering firing me from my job, for my work quality has rapidly decreased. All my wife does is lay at home in bed, complaining of the same fucking scratching noise the intruder made that night when he kidnapped my daughter. She says she hears voices all the time. Obviously, he's no longer in the house. She's just going crazy and it's driving me to the point of insanity. I miss my daughter so much. My heart aches every night. I feel already like I cannot remember the sound of her voice. I'm just drifting off to sleep as I hear a quieter scratching noise coming from my daughter's room. A quieter, weaker sound, but nonetheless the same. I grab my knife I've been hiding in my dresser drawer and race down the hallway, my wife still asleep at this time. I hurl the door open and turn the light on, but I'm greeted by the same thing as always. An empty bed and no sign of an intruder. I drop the knife to the floor and sit down, too tired to even comprehend what has happened. As I sit, I hear a scratching sound coming from the wall, directly behind my head. I jump and turn around and stare at the empty wall as the same scratching sound echoes throughout the room. I stare, confused for a moment, but suddenly lift the knife from the ground and ram it into the wall. A putrid scent smacks me in the face, waking me up immediately. The smell fills my entire body and I lean over and throw up all over the floor. I lean back over to the wall and smash my foot into the wall where my knife left the mark. It takes 2 more kicks for it to fully collapse, revealing a horrifying image that I'll never forget. In the wall lay my daughter's decaying, dead body, covered in bugs, with a disturbing lack of expression on her face. She stares blindly at me as the cat scratches the wall again as it crawls over her, creating a familiar sound. I lean back against the wall, piecing it together. For whatever reason, the cat crawled down into the vent shaft. My daughter followed it that night, becoming stuck. I trapped her and the cat in the wall by moving the vent cover back, leaving them to die and decay in the walls of my house. I burst into tears as the scratching sound fills my ears.